All right, this is the second fight on the card. It is Alexander Volkanovski against Max Holloway. So this is the other rematch on the card. And these guys fought for the first time for the featherweight title when Volkanovski took that belt away from Max Holloway. And the first time they fought was back in December 2019. So these fights are happening 7 months apart, so it's an immediate turnaround. There's not been any fights for either of them in between this rematch. Now, before I start giving my opinion about this particular fight and how I think this is going to go, and just talking a little bit about my observations over the last couple of weeks, I just quickly want to say, I feel like the narrative has changed around this fight because from what I remember, and I may be remembering this incorrectly, I felt like Max Holloway got the immediate rematch because on the strength of the fact that he had defended that featherweight title multiple times. And that's kind of like a running theme in MMA and the UFC. If you've defended the title a few times and someone beats you, if for some reason it justifies you getting an immediate rematch, irrespective of what's going on in the rest of the division and who actually deserves the match, if that makes sense. And I could live with that. I don't mind that. The problem that I've got is recently I've seen more and more people, pundits, ex-professionals, blah, 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 talking about how close this fight was and just discussing how, on another day, the judges might have swayed Max Holloway's direction as opposed to Volkanovski's. And I don't think that's right, because from memory, after watching that fight, I walked away from that fight thinking to myself, whoa, Volkanovski just outstruck Max Holloway. I wouldn't say he beat the shit out of Max Holloway, but he just literally caused more damage and he comfortably won that fight. Now, I haven't watched it back, but my friend Harry, who lives on my road, did watch it today, and he told me that Volkanovski clearly won. So if he says it and I remembered it that way, then it fucking must be true, you know? So, all right, look, that's that done. So let's just talk about the actual fight. So what is Max Holloway's motivation behind taking the immediate rematch? It's one of two things. It's either the fact that he believes he has got the answers to the questions that he didn't have in the first fight, and he wants to prove it in a rematch, and he's motivated and he feels that there were things in his game that were lacking in the first fight and he's improved those things that were lacking, or perhaps he feels like the strategy they had in the first fight wasn't right, and now that they've seen what Volkanovski's capable of, they're going to readjust and realign their game plan and come back stronger and better than yesterday. That's the first thing. Or it's a case of the UFC offered him the rematch and him and his team were a little bit shy, maybe is the right word, but a little bit apprehensive about turning down a title shot. And it was just, at that point, it kind of just turned into a little bit of a question of manhood, maybe. Question of how brave you are. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying he was coerced into taking the immediate title shot, but it was a little bit of bravado on his side. And him or his team or whoever's involved in making the decision didn't want to say, look, man, Volkanovski, he got the better of you. You've got improvements that you need to make in your game. So let's go away, let's regroup, let's fight other people, let's work on some things, and then let's come back in a couple of fights and fight for the title. Now, the way Max Holloway's been talking in terms of, how he's been training, etc., I found it a little bit bizarre, talking about the fact that because everyone's in lockdown and he was isolating, etc., he's had to train over Zoom, talking about how he made one of them, I don't know what the right word is, but one of them kind of punch bag stroke dummies that you have on the floor and you can hit. He made one of them with pillows and a gi and stuff like that. And it just felt a little bit too nonchalant for a guy that's lost his previous fight. The other thing that kind of concerned me a little bit about Max Holloway is his outlook on the first fight and how he was talking about how he feels he won the first fight. Because for me, clearly, the way I remember it, Volkanovski beat him. And another concern with all of this is the way that the way that Max Holloway was talking about the leg kicks that Volkanovski was throwing, and he was saying, "Oh, they didn't hurt me. I kept coming forward." But no, because he was. I know Max Holloway tends to switch stances, but he was doing it not out of strategy, but out of pain to his legs in that first fight. And he may say they didn't hurt him, they may not have, but they stopped him in his fucking tracks. They stopped him from doing what he intended to do. Like when he's closing the distance, trying to strike with Volkanovski, he was trying to close the distance to land a punch, but he was unable to do that because every time he stepped forward, Volkanovski was kicking his leg. And he wasn't able to throw. He wasn't able to have the right balance. He wasn't able to get the power that he needed. He wasn't even able to connect on the strike because his legs were getting taken away from underneath him. So that take, I mean, obviously he's not going to sit here and say, oh, those leg kicks really hurt. And if he does it in the second fight, it's really going to fuck me up. But I don't know, man. I don't know whether all of this is just him saying things in front of the camera and it's stuff that they've been working on behind the scenes. And obviously he's not going to talk about it. But I just think the manner in which he is saying these things are concerning me a little bit. I don't know. And obviously, look, we're only going to find out on fight night. I'm just giving you my impressions that I've got from Max Holloway over the last week or two of watching his interviews on various platforms. Another thing that really concerned me, and this is going to lead into me talking about what's his face, Volkanovski. When Max Holloway was talking about how he trained for the first fight, he kept referring to classes and talking about how, oh yeah, I felt like I needed to go to each class and stuff like that. And this training camp, being away from all of that, has helped me kind of rejuvenate my body and I don't feel as beat up as I did in the first fight. I'm paraphrasing, those aren't the exact words he used. But when you're up, it was a little bit worrying that a man that was the champion was just relying on going to classes for his training. Like, in my head, if you're a champion, you should just be going to the gym to be drilling specific techniques for the opponent that you're going to be facing in your next fight. And when you haven't got a fight booked, you should just be going to the gym to be drilling and improving on techniques that you need work on. So if he's doing just general classes in the gym with other people, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe that was just like, I've just misinterpreted what you were saying, but that's another thing that kind of stuck out to me. So yeah, just if we just quickly look at the last fight, an area in which Max Holloway can take some confidence is he did have some success late on in the fight. And I feel like if he's going to win this fight, he needs to be first. He needs to not it's easy for me to sit here and say he needs to not let Alexander Volkanovski kick the shit out of his legs, but he needs to devise a game plan, and I can't tell you what that game plan is or how he's going to do it, but he needs to how's the best way of saying this? He needs to come up with a counter for the leg kicks that Volkanovski is probably going to throw in this second fight. And he needs to find a new way of getting into distance and being able to land without having those leg kicks affect his offense. As I said, he did have some success later on in the fight. So in my mind, he needs to basically just start landing sooner. And I think he needs to drag Volkanovski into a fucking fight. Because in the first fight, it was a fight, obviously, but Volkanovski was very controlled and he was I'm not going to say he was point fighting, but he was able to stick to his game plan. And he wasn't fighting using his heart, and he wasn't angry. He wasn't in the fight emotionally. He was very controlled and he was measured. And the way he fought was what the game plan was to a T. Does that make sense? So I think if Max Holloway is going to have any success in this fight, if he's going to win this fight, he's got to drag Volkanovski out of that. And he's got to drag him into the mind state of where it's a fight, where it's I hit you, you hit me, I hit you, you hit me, sort of thing. It's got to be a back and forth rather than just Volkanovski being controlled and measured like he was in the first fight. Now, with Alexander Volkanovski, what are his keys to victory? Nothing needs to change. Like, the way he fought that fight was the perfect fight the first time around. And I can't think of what Max Holloway is going to do differently that will stop Volkanovski being able to implement exactly the same game plan at a large scale with a few minor little tweaks. I can't see a scenario in which that won't work. Does that make sense? Also, he's felt Max Holloway's power. So in the first couple of rounds, he was very careful about not getting hit, and then towards the end of the fight, Max Holloway caught him a few times. Now, because he's felt that power, and clearly, obviously, it was later on in the fight, which means that Max Holloway wasn't throwing at his full potential. But because he's felt Max Holloway in the cage, he's felt his strength, and he's felt his movement. Does that mean that Volkanovski this time around will respect him less, and will actually be more aggressive, and will actually not mind standing in range with Max Holloway? Because he might believe that, all right, if Max hits me, it won't hurt me as much as if I hit him. This is just this. I'm not saying this should be his game plan. I'm just saying this might be on his mind after being in there with him for the first time. Another positive for Volkanovski is obviously his coach, Eugene Bierman. Like, he's been getting a lot of accolades. He's been getting a lot of props, a lot of big ups from the MMA community for the way that he gets his fighters ready, how he trains his fighters, and the game plans he sends his fighters into the octagon with. Now, this time around, obviously, it's been difficult with, I believe, Eugene Bierman was in New Zealand and Volkanovski was in Australia. They weren't able to train the same way that they usually do. But I have every faith that Eugene Bierman was able to communicate whatever message he needed to communicate to Volkanovski through modern technology, Zoom and shit like that. So I think a positive for Volkanovski is that he has a coach and a trainer in his corner that will prepare Volkanovski with a robust game plan. Like, going back to Max Holloway, and this is no disrespect to him or his team, I don't even know who his head coach is. I don't know the name of his camp. I just know that he's from Hawaii. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I feel like Max Holloway's just got an advantage in terms of his team and his camp and his coach, etc. So what's my prediction for this fight? I feel like Alexander Volkanovski is going to win again. I don't think it will be revenge. I think it will be repeat. I can't even see this fight being closer than the first time. Like, I can't see Max Holloway necessarily hurting Volkanovski at any point in the fight, unless it's like right towards the end. He might stun him, but I don't think he'll be able to hurt him enough to go for the finish. But I can see that scenario playing out the other way around. I can see Volkanovski hurting Max Holloway, and I can see him potentially finishing him. I just think this fight is going to go 5 rounds, and I think Volkanovski is going to get it done. And I just think it's going to look a lot like the first fight, just because I can't see what adjustments Max Holloway is going to make to stop those leg kicks from impacting his own offense. And that's my prediction. Volkanovski, unanimous, or just a decision. Like, I don't know whether it's going to be fucking unanimous or split. I just think he'll get it on points. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think about my assessment? What do you think about this fight? Who do you think is going to win? What do you think about the stuff that I've raised around Max Holloway's camp, etc., Volkanovski's camp, blah, blah, blah? Let me know. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button. Share this with a friend if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys in my, drum roll, Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal video.